Hi, I'm Sean Mooney, professor at the University of Washington and Chief Research Information Officer of UW-Medicine. Over the past 2 years, we have been creating an initiative in medical data science, and as part of that, we have created this seminar. Speakers will include world-leading scientists who will tell us about how data can impact human health and their healthcare. Please use the link below to register for our mailing list to hear about future events in this series. We hope you enjoy them.
I'm glad to introduce Dr. Jason Hipp today. Dr. Jason Hipp is the chair of the Division of Clinical Informatics in Mayo Clinic's Department of Laboratory Medicine and Pathology. He is a board-certified pathologist with fellowship training in pathology informatics with experience in artificial intelligence. Previously, he led the pathology data science group at AstraZeneca, where he applied the disruptive digital technologies to identify new biomarkers and drug mechanism of actions. Before that, Dr. Hipp worked at the Novartis Clinical Trial Center in San Diego as a molecular pathologist, supporting the company's high-profile phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. Dr. Hipp was also head of the pathology at Google Life Science, and then transferred to Google, where he was the lead pathologist for the medical brain team, leveraging artificial intelligence to develop computer-aided diagnosis tools for the detection of cancer. Dr. Hipp earned his MD and PhD from Wake Forest University School of Medicine and a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from the University of California at San Diego. He completed a residency in pathology at the National Cancer Institute, a pathology informatics fellowship at the University of Michigan, and a postdoctoral clinical fellowship at the National Cancer Institute. He was also one of the 12 pathologists nationally selected to be on the College of American Pathologists Committee on Digital Pathology, where he remains a member. Welcome, Doctor.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. I'm going to give a talk today about building the future of computational pathology and AI at Mayo Clinic. I'm going to touch upon pathology just to give everybody grounded on the medical discipline of pathology, talk a little bit about AI, talk about kind of some work that I've done throughout my career and what we're building and how we're trying to bridge medicine with computer science. I'll try to go a little quicker just so that I could have time for questions, because I'm hoping we could get a good dialogue and some good feedback, talking about, kind of the whys rather than just the what's of the presentation. So with that being said, I'm an employee of Mayo Clinic and I have no conflicts of interest. I kind of just gave this to you, but I want to talk to you about why Mayo Clinic, or why computational pathology, and then why Mayo Clinic, tell you some of the kind of the key attributes that really drew me here from industry. What will this new division do? How do we work internally and externally with partners? An important role for us at Mayo Clinic is education. So what role is that going to play? So just a brief executive summary is I want to present this rationale for building a comprehensive computational pathology and AI division within our pathology department. And again, most of the times in digital pathology, it's just kind of tacked on to the department, or there's a little subset that's doing digital pathology. What we're doing here at Mayo Clinic is a very novel experiment where we're trying to build its own division and have that live on itself. So what do these faculty members do? How do we bridge medicine and computer science and stuff? So I really want to talk to you about how I'm structuring that with our team. Also talk about, why now? Why is this the right time to build such a division? And what can you expect from us in the future? So with that being said, so why computational pathology and AI? So real briefly, pathology serves as a gold standard for all diagnosis. A patient doesn't get treated for cancer without a pathology biopsy or a pathology diagnosis. And also another thing, I think it's more than half. I think it's almost 2/3 of the unique data elements in the electronic medical record are from the pathology lab. So we have a lot of data and we make critical decisions with this data. You can kind of see where data science and AI kind of fits in, hopefully. I'm going to skip over this unless anyone has questions, but how does this all fit into the specialty? If there's any pathology residents out there, I could definitely follow back onto this slide. So let's talk briefly. How do I move this thing? Oh, no, I'm going to go here. Okay, anyways. So how does traditional pathology differ than computational pathology? In the bottom is a pink and purple image. This is what pathologists call our H&E images. These are stained tissue specimens that we get from when the patients go to the operating room. And what we do as pathologists, we look at this under a microscope. And you can imagine how many millions and millions of cells there are there. So we provide a subjective, qualitative, and semi-quantitative assessment about the tissue. Is there cancer? Yes or no? What grade is it? Is there invasion? What kind of invasion? And then we take this information and create qualitative and semi-quantitative interpretations into a report. An important aspect from a machine learning perspective is that our human brain will look for certain patterns. That's what we're trained for in residency, and we're going to ignore non-conformatory data. So you can kind of see where I'm going, where AI can really have an advantage. So thus, a significant amount of data from this tissue remains unutilized or underutilized. However, when we think about digital pathology and computational pathology, what we're doing is we're taking these slides, creating gigapixel images, and having algorithms analyze this. Algorithms could provide robust, highly quantitative, and complex spatial measurements to analyze every pixel or feature. And then these numerical queries, these numerical results can be integrated with disparate data sets. And the computer brain looks at everything and can identify novel features. So here's what we're doing. You can see we're identifying every little pixel and cell feature within the image. So what I'm kind of showing here is that what we're really doing is going from a qualitative domain on the left to a digital domain. And one of the hypotheses that I like to show for the value of why we can do so much with computer algorithms is that, let's say I have a tissue slide that's on the left that a pathologist looks at under a microscope. We can digitize that, right? Create it to zeros and ones that you have on the right. We can put this on a USB drive, put it into a different computer. We can email this image to another computer. Thus, what we can do is convert the zeros and ones back to the same image that we have on the left. And we can make it the same diagnosis from that image, right? So why can't we go after the zeros and ones and make our diagnosis? Why can't we go after the zeros and ones to identify novel features that pathologists may be not able to see with their eyes? So that's the real hypothesis of what we're really trying to build out in the field of computational pathology and AI. I think there's a lot more machine learning experts on the call that can explain this more than me. But what we're really leveraging is deep learning. It's a subset of AI, but just for the sake of this talk, I'm going to be using AI. So again, what is computational pathology? In essence, what we're really doing is leveraging our digital assets and to create novel ways to diagnose cancer patients and to identify prognosis. So what we can do now is what pathologists have done for the last 100 years. You look at a bunch of cases, you look at the outcome, you look at how the patient responded or didn't respond to different therapies, and you find correlations. So that's done by the human brain right now. And what we want to do is leverage digital assets. So we want to convert these into data sets and create machine learning algorithm groups where we can train algorithms to identify patterns in one data set and not the other, to, in essence, do what pathologists do, but at scale. We also want to make the pathology process more smoother by using digital processes. And the goal of all this is to develop novel solutions. We really want to do what pathologists can't do with glass slides, because that's going to be the real ROI or the real value add of going digital and using AI. So I see there's a convergence, like I mentioned to you, all the data we have in laboratory medicine and pathology. There's a lot of technologies that are out there in the data, and that's the real intersection where we want to play out. We want to play really at the intersection of novel technologies, whether that's novel imaging technologies or novel algorithms, leveraging pathology data and using this in the cloud. So what I'd like to really highlight is that, these three technological factors that are coming of age that are available now create a really unique juncture in time. That's big data. So we have these scanners that can create large whole slide images. We can put them on the cloud, which means they're accessible and movable. And we're also leveraging AI to analyze these large numbers of data sets. So also, this is a report done by McKinsey, and it's really showing that data analytics and software and platforms are a really critical growth area for today's business. So here's what I have here is one of my first papers that I've done at Google with our team, as you see, Dr. Lewin et al. So what we did is we developed a novel, an AI algorithm to identify metastatic breast cancer and lymph nodes. And as you can see at that low power, you can see how many cells and tissues are there. And then you can see how we zoom in and we have to find this. That's the tumor highlighted in blue. That's the novel needle in a haystack. And then it's really robust to artifacts, whether it's staining, fixation, and stuff. And you can see that down in the bottom left. And in the bottom right corner, we're using attention modeling to actually identify what is the algorithm seeing. And when it finds a mistake or doesn't work, we can identify and backtrack to what is it identifying and what's tricking it. We also did this to improve the grading of prostate cancer with AI. And as you can see in the upper left, that's the original figure done by Gleason when he identified the different types of glands and the different grading types, and used that to find an amazing prognostic score for patients. And what we did is we had thousands and thousands of annotations where pathologists would circle the different Gleason grades. And what they would then develop the deep learning model to identify that, which you can see in the bottom left. It's highlighted in the different colors for the different types of cancer it identified. And you can see in the upper right corner, that's a huge specimen, you know, and you can imagine it's going through and calculating every gland and assessing it for what Gleason grade. And what's really cool about this is that, you know, normally pathologists give an approximate percentage as 50% is Gleason 5, 40%, just rough estimates. But in the bottom right, when counting every little gland, we can do quantitative, robust metrics about how much of these different grades are there. And I think this is really going to have a big impact of how we grade cancer in the future, whether it's Gleason grading or using this for other types of approaches. We also use Google's tool, as you know, Google Photos is reverse image search. You know, that's how it self-tags people in your albums. We did that for pathology, and let's see if this video works. Well, briefly, what we do is we have a field of view, as you can see this little box here, and we say, what is this? You know, what cases are similar that a patient has seen before? And then it shows on the left, you can see similar images. So what's unique about this is that it doesn't just say cancer, but you can identify regions of like cancer with lymphocytes, and then it'll pull up cancer with lymphocytes and stuff. But how is this really utilized is that when you analyze your biobank, one potential way of doing this is that you could say, what is this feature? Pull me all the similar cases, go look at that report, and you can see how that's been diagnosed. So you can really help pathologists where there might not be a consultant pathologist nearby or some very, very difficult case. And you can use these tools to assist the pathologists rather than replace the pathologist, to really assist them in doing their job. Yeah. Let's see if this video works. Okay. We also notice is that, you know, sure, it's great that we can do digital pathology at a Google or one of the top medical centers where you have these robust scanners, you have the IT infrastructure, you have cloud storage. But how's this really going to get to the patient? About 80% of patients are treated out in the community, and they don't always have access to these types of technologies. So what we decided to do is put the AI directly into the microscope. And in this project with Dr. Chen et al., what we did is we created a microscope and connected the field of view to a computer where the calculations were being performed. And then as those results are being performed, it would annotate the image within your eyepieces. And I hope the audio comes through, but I like to show this video. So if nothing happens, please let me know and I'll pause it and I'll try to figure it out. But otherwise, I want to show you this 2-minute video.
There's no cancer treated without understanding what the pathology is.
The tissue slides that pathologists use to diagnose cancer contain a vast amount of information. It's very time-consuming, very fatiguing.
Every cell needs to be examined. Sometimes cancer is very difficult to recognize.
We had the idea for the microscope project about a year ago. It brings augmented reality into an existing microscope to detect cancers in real time. We're bringing AI directly to the user and meeting them where they are right now.
I think this is going to enable almost all pathologists to have access to machine learning.
Just a few weeks ago, we got working end-to-end.
It has a camera, so it's seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Information is being fed into a computer, which is doing billions of calculations and telling me that's the tumor, that's not the tumor.
Right now, it detects breast cancer and prostate cancer, but it could also work on any other cancer type that we train models for. The knowledge that you're getting when the microscope points out cancer to you is the knowledge of many pathologists who contributed to training a machine learning model.
We had a team of pathologists that went through thousands of images, teaching the computer what cancer cells look like.
I think it has been very effective at locating areas of concern. It's like getting a second opinion.
It's going to make the doctors much quicker. They're going to make them better, which is going to overall benefit the patient.
The mission is to increase the accuracy and availability of cancer diagnosis and save people's lives. I can hardly think of anything that's more motivating.
Oh, there. So what I'd like to talk about real briefly is, there's been a lot of attention in the news about pathology and what AI can do, and I just kind of wanted to summarize that. And in essence, what I've shown here in some of the previous work and what others are showing in the field is that we can use AI to direct a pathologist to a region of the slide. We can determine if there's cancer or not. We could potentially grade it. We can quantify biomarker expressions, showing we can also search and identify similar cases. And what's really exciting right now is the idea to look for embedded features within these images. And what some groups are showing is that you can predict the potential mutational status off an image alone, which means you wouldn't have to do as much sequencing, or you can enrich for people that get sequenced. You can predict protein expression and also the risk category and survival of a patient. So what I'd like to show here is that, while digital slide scanners, they've been out for about 12 years now, we're at the slope of an alignment. This is the typical hype curve where there's a lot of interest, a big disillusionment, and then we have our plateau of productivity. So I would say scanners right now, we're over here, but we're still in the early phase of the AI in pathology, trying to learn about what it can do. And we also need to find out what it can't do and where are the limitations and challenges, and how do we augment that? So why the Mayo Clinic? I would really like to highlight this real point from our CEO, the CEO of Mayo Clinic, Dr. Farrugia, is that what we're doing at the Mayo Clinic is taking a data-centric approach to unleash the true power that data and advanced analytics to bring to prevent, identify, and solve the most complex healthcare problems. So this is a institutional initiative now where we're going digital and we're trying to leverage novel technologies to help take care of our patients. This is a brief history of some of the work that was done at Mayo Clinic. And back in 1905, the first frozen section in pathology was done. The first total hip replacement was done here. PD-L1, the biomarker for immunotherapy, was discovered here. And what's really unique about Mayo Clinic is, I think it's right over here, we have our venture capital firm. So we have Mayo Clinic Ventures that invest in our in technologies that we're interested in and that we maybe identify and develop. So we also have a state-of-the-art scanning room. So most hospitals have these scanners here. You can't really appreciate, but we've got 19 scanners just in our clinical workflow. Each one does about 350 to 450 slides per run. Most hospitals have one or two. Our practice is so large that we've got 19 fully dedicated to clinical workflow. And separately, we have these new Pramana scanners that you can see in the upper right. These are scanning our archive. So we currently have 25 million slides in our tissue archive. And over the next 3 years, we're going to be digitizing 5 million of them. And these scanners are really unique is that these are 4 scanners controlled by one robotic arm. And what it does is it pulls the scanner out and from these different trays here and scans it and runs autonomously right here. And what's really cool is that it has AI built into the scanner. So it's checking for QA and QC artifacts in real time, which is really helpful when you're scanning an archive in which you might not see that slide later on and know the quality of it a year or two down the road. So what will this new division do within the pathology department? So Mayo's mission is to transform how Mayo provides answers to people in needs around the world. And what our division is doing is that we're trying to serve as those change agents, innovating, educating, and implementing computational pathology and AI. And how are we going to do this? We're going to identify and develop opportunities to add new tools to the practice, work with other groups within Mayo Clinic and the pathology department to add the value of information we deliver back to the providers and our patients. So this is the current setup of our division. So it's me, and I'm paired with an administrator, Deb Novak. We have Chris Garcia that just joined the team as a faculty member, where he led the digital pathology at LabCorp. Dave McClintock was leading a lot of the pathologist leading a lot of the efforts at Michigan. Steve Hart, who's been at Mayo Clinic and is trained in bioinformatics and digital pathology. And Mark Zarella, who's joined, who is leading the digital pathology effort at Hopkins. We also have postdoc and graduate students. And Mayo Clinic, has 3 sites. So we have representatives in Florida and Arizona, in addition to Minnesota, that we work together with. So you can see we're kind of like a company, but yet an academic hospital at the same time, where we have a lot of groups and we kind of work together. So as you can see in my background here, you'll see the Mayo Clinic 3 shields. And really what that does is that's where all our efforts, our strategies are aligned to. They represent the clinical practice, research, and education. That started with the Mayo brothers who founded Mayo Clinic. And what we're doing here in our division is showing that too. So since we don't sign out cases and we're pathologists, what we really see ourselves as implementing technologies into the practice. So we really want to drive the clinical adoption and new tools within pathology in our practice shield. From a research perspective, we want to identify and explore highly disruptive technologies and get resources, whether it's from corporate development, whether it's from Mayo Clinic Ventures, to help us invest in these technologies and bring them in. So overall, we can bring them into our practice. And lastly, we want to educate, not only educate and get our pathology department and our collaborators up to speed internally, but to really help the external community. So so when you think of AI and digital pathology, I'd like to break it down into 3 kind of aspects or use cases. We can detect and triage, which are low risk, low reward. These are things that I showed you, identifying cancer, so it helps the pathologist be quicker. We could quantify. That was like Gleason gradient and biomarker scores, where you quantify the amount of a biomarker. That's, I would say, medium risk, medium reward. And I think what everyone's most excited about the potential of digital pathology is the predictive component. That is, can we predict the mutational status? Can we predict whether a patient will respond to a therapy or not? That's high risk, high reward, and still being proven and under investigation. So how do we integrate within the broader enterprise? So what we really see ourselves as more than a center, but a matrix to really leverage all the expertise within Mayo Clinic. I call this our onion model, because in essence, what we do is we see ourselves as the core, the division of computational pathology and AI. We have representatives from the other departments, the other 7 or 8 departments within the clinical department, clinical divisions within the department. And these serve as our subject matter experts. These are the pathologists that do the practice. And they play a critical role because they have the use cases. They know what is going to be clinically important, and they're going to help us bring these technologies into the clinic. We also have a broader enterprise within we connect with. We have a Center for AI and Informatics, which is a research arm, which does a lot of algorithm development. We have a cancer center that's doing a lot of cancer AI, radiology, our genomics center, and a Center for Digital Health. And what we want to see is we really want to leverage external perspectives, and we want to put together an external advisory board to make sure that we're leveraging the right AI and digital tools that are being used in other medical disciplines. So how the onion works. So what we really see is that we identify a problem, or a clinical champion identifies a problem. We then evaluate the technology, really understand the informatics and get into the code or the under the hood of the technology. We work together to put a proof of concept in place. Sorry about that. And then what we want to do is integrate this technology into the workflow. And then what we really see a lot of these technologies is living in the clinical divisions. So they will maintain the algorithms, and we will cycle back and work on another problem, work with our other clinical divisions. So what we don't want to see ourselves as an IT shop, or what we do is we just develop algorithms, but we really see ourselves as the change agents driving innovation, knowing when to develop AI and maybe when it's not a good idea, or to use other technologies. advocate for investments, and really drive the laboratory of the future. So this kind of comes back from my time in industry, but what I think there's a critical role is to leverage the best-in-class science that's being done by startups and other companies out there. And we have a long history of working with companies. This is a slide from our business development team where we have strategic partnerships where we like to invest or have strategic collaborations, as you can see with Delta during COVID. We have a lot of our work being done in Google Cloud and a lot of tech companies. So this is kind of a tension that I have to balance, is that, we have a lot of these high valuable data sets, right? We have so much data. As you see, we're digitizing 25 million slides. We can't solve all the problems for AI. So that's one of the reasons why we would want to partner with external academic groups or companies. But at the same time, we don't want to give all our gold away, right? We don't want to give our data away. So we got to find out what data sets that we want to develop algorithms on. So what we're really trying to do is develop this kind of workflow in which we partner with external groups, whether these are companies or academic groups, to help us develop algorithms, or we partner internally with a lot of the other digital pathology and AI initiatives that are going on with the Mayo Clinic. So what we really want to do is kind of find this dynamic balance over time to figure out what's the best way to bring in these new algorithms and technologies. Lastly, education is a critical piece. And as you know, in AI and especially digital pathology, we really need to have diversity enrichment programs to really get more diverse workforce, more women, more people of color in AI and digital pathology in AI. Another aspect is what we want to do is we want to give boot camps. So there's a lot of world-class expert pathologists that really know everything about how to diagnose a disease, have all the qualitative skill sets to do the best kind of in-care for pathology, but they're not familiar with AI and digital pathology. So we want to create boot camps and such. So there's a lot of rotations we want. So PhD students, MD PhD students, residents to come through to work with us on this team to get up to speed about this and hopefully keep in touch and collaborate in the future. From a regulatory perspective, this is a difficult one because it's still being determined, as you know, from the FDA and a lot of groups here. And we actually have our own regulatory team is working with our Center for Digital Health Software as a Medical Device team. Here, I'd love to hear people's thoughts and stuff like this, because this is a very, very tricky area. Racial bias is an important issue we need to think about, lots of other things. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And with that being said, I want to thank you, and I'd love to answer any questions.